Hi everyone, my name's Amy Tolson and I'm your professor for Bio 217 Human Anatomy and Physiology 1 this summer. This summer's course is completely online. There will be no Zoom meetings, no times where you absolutely have to be available. That being said, there will be times that I'm available to answer questions or to kind of help guide you through the material. And I'll be putting out my schedule of office hours in the next coming weeks. I've gotten a lot of questions from people about what they need for the class, what it's going to be like, so I figured it'd be a good idea to do a video and answer some of those questions. First, what do you need? You'll need access to Mastering A&P. Mastering A&P is the online platform that's tied to our textbook. If you got free access during the spring, unfortunately that will not carry through to the summer. But if you got access during, like if you bought the book and got an access card, that access card is good for 2 years. So if you bought the book already and you have the access card, that's going to last for 2 years and you should be able to use it this summer. You'll also need access to the textbook. Through the bookstore, you can buy the code for Mastering A&P, and with that code, you're going to get an electronic copy of the textbook. You can also buy the code directly from Pearson. It's a little bit less expensive if you buy it directly through Pearson, but you can't use financial aid. So there's pluses and minuses to each way. Either whether you buy it through Pearson or if you buy it through the bookstore, it will come with the e-text. And the e-text is great. I don't think that anybody necessarily needs to have a hard copy of the textbook. If you'd like to get a hard copy of the textbook, for $50 you can order it through the Mastering A&P website after you've set up your account. In addition to mastering access and access to the textbook, you are going to need a small plastic skeleton. I will have a skeleton available for you to order through the bookstore. This skeleton I ordered for about $25 on Amazon, and this skeleton is good enough. It's not 100% anatomically correct, but it's close. There'll be a dissecting kit that you'll be ordering through the bookstore that includes a tray, a brain, a scalpel. You'll need either clay, non-hardening clay, or Play-Doh. Play-Doh is actually a little bit easier because you can do things like this. So this is like a syringe that you get from the pharmacy, and you can put the Play-Doh in it and kind of squeeze out and get a nice strip of Play-Doh. And you'll see why this is helpful in a couple of slides. Toothpicks also will certainly help. So those are kind of the materials that you need. In addition, you'll need a strong internet connection, a laptop or desktop with a webcam. If you have a Chromebook, we can work with it, but please let me know ahead of time. And you also need the time and space dedicated to learning A&P. This is a lot of material. We don't cut anything out during the summer. You're taking this class to get into nursing and physical therapy and occupational therapy. You can't start those programs and go, oh, I took it during the summer, I never learned about the endocrine system. So this course, it's fast-paced and we cover a lot of material in a very short time. Speaking of time commitments, you should expect if you're taking the 4.5-week session, we cover 2 to 3 chapters a week. And that's about 35 hours of work at a minimum, really. So if you're taking that 4.5-week session, just plan 35 hours a week. So I always encourage my students to actually sit down and schedule their study time. Think about when their brain is the clearest, when they're most likely to have uninterrupted time, and schedule it and hold on to that time. If you're doing the 7-week session, we go through about 2 chapters a week, and expect about 25 hours worth of work per week. The assignments that we do in the class are going to include Mastering A&P homework and tutorials, a digital portfolio that's going to have, there's going to be weekly assignments that go to that digital portfolio, including case studies and studies in anatomy. You're going to have quizzes for each chapter on mastering. You're going to have tests on Moodle that are open between Friday and Monday from the previous week's material. And those tests will use ProctorU, which is kind of a remote test proctoring platform. And then there's going to be structural identification exams each week to make sure that you're learning all the anatomy that you need to know. You may be wondering, what are we going to do with the skeleton and the Play-Doh or clay? Well, I've got a few examples for you in the next few slides. The first thing that we're going to do is modeling. We're going to model tissues with it. So here is a model I made of simple columnar epithelium. Simple columnar epithelium has cells that are shaped like columns, which you can see here. I indicated the nuclei down here. And all epithelial tissue, so epithelial tissue is surface tissue, like our skin is epithelium, the lining of our mouth is epithelium. And all epithelial tissue has what's called a basement membrane. So this bracket is indicating the basement membrane. And the basement membrane has two layers. One's the basal lamina, and the other one's the reticular lamina. And so this is an example of something that you would be expected to do for your anatomy and physiology portfolio. Next, I have a model of the brain, and you can tell that I made it with the CVS branded Play-Doh toy. And so here you can see the different lobes. We have the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe, all visible within our skeleton. While I have the skeleton, I want to show a few things that if you're going to buy a skeleton other than the one in the bookstore or the one that I indicate on Amazon, you want to make sure that you have a skeleton whose skull comes off, and hopefully it goes on a little bit easier than this one. Okay. And if it has a movable jaw, that means that you'll be able to see the landmarks of the jaw that you need to know. And just, make sure you look at the reviews and see if people are talking about if it's anatomically correct or not. This one, I give this about a B- on being anatomically correct, but it's good enough for what we're covering this semester. The other thing we're going to use a skeleton for is to model muscles. So we're going to be able to indicate the origin and insertion and movement of major muscles in the body by using modeling clay. And so here's the deltoid, and I put some lines to indicate the direction that the fibers are in. And here's the trapezius, and you can see kind of where the trapezius attaches. Okay, so this is going to be very helpful in getting a real understanding of these organs. I hope you notice you do not have to be an artist. I am by no means an artist. I am not looking for artistic talent here. I'm really just looking for you to have a way to understand these things in kind of like a 3D conceptual model. Okay, so those are our examples. I'm just going to wrap it up by talking about some of the tools that we'll be using. We'll be using Google Classroom as a way to manage our assignments that aren't in Mastering A&P. We'll be using Moodle to access materials. We'll use, so My Lab in Mastering is that Pearson platform. And we're going to be using YouTube. I have a HCC associated YouTube channel. With your HCC email, you also have a YouTube channel. And I'm hoping that I'm certainly going to be posting videos, but I'm also hoping that I get some videos posted by the students as well. I'm just going to wrap up today by saying that on Thursday at 7 p.m. I'll have a Google Meet session. This is the code right here, meet.google.com/EMZ-KAQQ-KEU. I'll email this to all of you. And this is just a time for you to meet me, for me to meet you, and to answer any questions that you may have. I'll have a couple of these if there's a good amount of interest before class starts. But again, this one's going to be Thursday, May 14th at 7 p.m. I hope this video is helpful to you. I'm really looking forward to the summer. I think the course is going to be really fun. It's going to be hard, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be really interesting and summer, it goes by very quickly. It's a bit of a marathon, but people usually just do very well during the summer. So I think that this is going to be a really great experience for you guys.